School is out, the kids are home, the schedules change. And every summer, family courts, child protective agencies, and law enforcement regrettably see an increase in complaints involving child neglect. And this is a really important, serious matter. So here's the problem. Many parents aren't sure where the fine line is between giving a child independence and crossing into neglect. And questions arise. Can you leave your child home alone? What if that child is watching younger siblings? Is that child old enough? What if they're spending all day unsupervised? Where are the parents? What are the parents doing? Are they working? Are they causing trouble? So today we're talking about child neglect, particularly during the summer, and what every parent should know. Let's first define what child neglect is. Now, when people hear the word neglect, they often think about a child not having food or a place to live. But neglect can be much broader than that. In many situations, neglect involves a failure to provide adequate supervision, medical care, education, shelter, clothing, or protection from foreseeable harm. Now, the reality is that neglect cases don't always involve bad parents. Sometimes they involve overwhelmed parents and parents that make bad decisions. And sometimes they involve parents who simply underestimate the risks. Summer creates unique challenges. During the school year, children have more structure. They're in school. Teachers see them every day. School staff and administration, they notice problems a lot of times before anyone else does. Summer removes that structure, and parents may still be working full-time. We all know that childcare has become really expensive, so sometimes in summer, parents are skipping the childcare. Family schedules can also be stretched thin, and as a result, some parents begin making arrangements that they normally wouldn't make during the school year. Now, that's when legal problems can arise. Key question here, can you leave a child home alone? Now, this comes up a lot, and it's one of the most common questions that parents ask. And they come in, they say, here's my work schedule, what do I do? Is this going to be acceptable? It's not always a simple answer, so let's break this down. There's often no magic age that automatically makes it legal or illegal. Let's face it, child's a child until age 18, and it depends on the child's age, their development, and their needs, their maturity. Now, the factors that authorities would look at in a situation like this, as I mentioned, is the child's age. They're going to look at the child's maturity level. They're going to ask how long has the child been left alone. They're going to want to know whether the child had access to basic things like food, water, emergency contacts. What about the environment? What's the home like? Is it a safe environment? And what about younger children? Are they also present in the home? What were the expectations of this child or children? A mature teenager being left alone for a few hours is very different from leaving a young child unsupervised all day. When supervision becomes a problem, courts and child welfare agencies often focus on foreseeability. And what I mean by that is that they are asking the question of, could a reasonable parent have predicted that harm might occur in making this decision to leave this child alone under these conditions? Now, examples that could raise these concerns are young children being left home alone for extended periods of time, children who are left without access to food, children who are left in dangerous environments, and children who are supervising siblings that are beyond that child's capabilities. They'll also look at children who are regularly found to be wandering unsupervised. Has this happened before? That's a key thing they'll look at. Another factor they'll look at is the failure to obtain necessary medical care. How do the parents act in that situation? As you can see, the concern isn't simply whether something bad happened, but they're looking at the conditions and the decisions that were made ahead of time. So it's really about whether the situation created an unreasonable risk that something bad could happen. Now, what happens in the event that someone reports neglect? Now, reports can come from many sources. This includes neighbors, can be relatives, teachers, medical professionals, or even the other parent during a custody dispute. Once a report is made, investigators may examine the facts that surround the situation. They're likely to interview the parents, they'll likely interview the children, and they may review living conditions and other relevant information. Now, every report does not automatically result in anything happening, whether we call it criminal charges or court action or even involvement from Child Protective Services. However, neglect allegations should always be taken seriously. Let's talk about divorce and custody and how that can complicate these situations. So summer neglect allegations frequently come up during custody disputes, and it may be one parent who believes that the other parent is leaving the child unsupervised, and that parent might be making these allegations or reports to make it a stronger factor in their court case. Now, they might exaggerate the extent of it, and the other parent who's leaving the child alone may look at the parent making the report and saying, you're making too big a deal out of this. So when these situations reach a court, judges are often focusing on evidence, again, rather than just making assumptions. And here's where documentation really matters. So if you're concerned in your custody matter that when your children are not with you and they're with the other parent, that they're being left unsupervised and that supervision is neglectful, you really need to make certain of this situation and discover whether there's specific facts available, because it matters. Your credibility matters in a courtroom, so make sure that you have the right information. Summer really should be a time for children to enjoy themselves, grow, make memories. At the same time, parents have to make decisions that don't leave their kids unsupervised, that put them into dangerous situations, and could potentially cause harm to a child, emotionally or physically. So parents, be really mindful about the decisions that you're making regarding childcare, your work schedule, what the true needs are. And sometimes you're going to be better off just coming to the other parent and saying, hey, look, I'm working, I'm not available. Are you available for the children? And maybe the other parent is, maybe the other parent isn't, but I bet the two of you can probably resolve that and figure out the right place and the right supervision for your children so they're not being neglected or potentially harmed. Now, if you're facing allegations of neglect, you're involved in a custody dispute, or you have questions about your rights and responsibilities as a parent, speaking with an experienced family law attorney like myself can really help you better understand how to present your case and what the claims are in court. So make sure to speak to an attorney.